Connor Ingram has been placed on waivers. Should the Sharks bite?
You're Locked On Sharks, your daily podcast on the San Jose Sharks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, welcome to Locked On Sharks, the premier hockey podcast covering your favorite team in the Bay Area. My name is JD Young, caretaker at the Reef, also the co-host of Locked On NHL. I want to thank you for making the Locked On Sharks your first listen. Proudly part of the Locked On Network. We cover your team every day. And if you want to be an everydayer, all you have to do, just follow along wherever you get podcasts. And of course, you can watch on YouTube as well. And today we're going to be talking about Connor Ingram, the goalie who's been placed on waivers by the Utah Mammoth. If the Sharks should put in a claim for said goalie, what that would mean, some of the kind of difficulties around navigating, trying to bring in Ingram and what that might cause for the Sharks. Plus, we're also going to discuss Quentin Musty with Celebrini and Smith, as we're going to look at the practice lines from today and what we can kind of glean from that. And we'll get you ready for the Sharks' second preseason game against the Vegas Golden Knights and what to watch for in that game. So before we do all that, do want to let you guys know that today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com and win $300 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. So today was the first day of waivers, which also means the first day of did they waive back jokes on Twitter. Hashtag blessed. What a world we live in. So in waivers, of course, if you're don't know how the process works, waivers are just a nice reminder for everybody. Teams can place players on waivers that have NHL contracts with the hope that to get them down into the AHL, right? The Sharks are going to have some guys that they will have to do this with, notably guys like Colin White, Lucas Carlson, like some of these kind of veteran players who are expected to be in the AHL. They will have to go through waivers. What this does is it opens it up to everybody in the entire league to basically place a claim deciding I would like to add this person onto my roster. The way that is structured right now until I think it's the 1st of November is it is in reverse order, or it's in order of the draft. So the Sharks first priority claim. So until November 1st, the Sharks can pick, if there's somebody put on waivers, the Sharks have the first opportunity to claim said player. If you do claim said player, they are then placed on your roster and count as towards one of your contracts, 50 contracts, et cetera, et cetera. So Connor Ingram was, as expected, placed on waivers by the Utah Mammoth, as he and actually both him and the team are both kind of looking for a fresh break. So quickly on Connor Ingram. So Ingram is a goalie. So he's from good Saskatchewan boy who's in the 2016 NHL draft. He was a third round pick by the Tampa Bay Lightning. He's 28, doesn't turn 29 until the end of March next year. He's 6'1", 218 pounds. He came up through the Lightning system, was placed on waivers where he was claimed by the Preds, and then eventually ended up with the Arizona Coyotes and has been with the Arizona/Utah Hockey Club, now Utah Mammoth, for the past couple of seasons. What makes him such kind of an intriguing player is not that long ago, he was an excellent player in the NHL. The 23-24 season with the Coyotes, he played 50 games, had a .291 goals against average with a .907 save percentage, 6 shutouts. And remember that Arizona team wasn't really lighting the world on fire, right? And even the year before that, when he played in the 22-23 season, he had 27 games with a 336 goals against average and a 907 save percentage with one shutout. Again, not the greatest Coyotes teams. Last season, though, he went through some troubles and some struggles, and you have to kind of start with the main crux, I think, for his issues is his mom unfortunately passed away from cancer in December, right? And that's a tough thing for it clearly affected his on ice play. He took a leave of absence to join the players. Took a leave of absence to get healthy, right? And went through the whole player protocol thing and is, now expected to, be back and kind of resume his career. So you're kind of looking at last year as a bit of an abnormality, or that's the hope, right? For a player who was very good, but last year really struggled. 22 games last year, 327 goals against, 882 save percentage. He did play a game in the AHL where he was good in that one game, as you would expect. But, is a player who went through some troubles last year dealing with the death of his mom, as 100% would be expected, kind of dealing with the weight of that and kind of going through that grief and that process. So, but it sounds like he's kind of gotten everything, his mental health back in order, and he's ready to resume his career. With Utah, though, they've had an emergence of other goalies where they feel like they can, and again, I think Ingram is looking for a fresh start somewhere else. So it's kind of doing him a favor here of putting him on waivers with the hope or the expectation that a team will claim him. So should the Sharks be that team, right? We know the Sharks need another goalie who's got, or would like another goalie who's got NHL experience, who can kind of be the third goalie, right? We know Jacob Skarek, who's played a whopping 2 games in the NHL. Nedeljkovic is expected to be the backup, but bringing in a guy like Connor Ingram, who's been a very good goalie to help provide some backup, and in case, right, something, if either Askarov or Nedeljkovic get injured, you have a guy who can kind of come in and be a very serviceable to potentially very good goalie. So it makes a lot of sense for San Jose, at least in that aspect, to try to add another piece to the goalie pipeline. The problems is of course, we know the Sharks are up against it when it comes to contracts, and the expectation is they're going to have to move at least one contract to get both Misa and Dickinson on the roster for the full season, if both those guys make it past their 9 NHL games. And if you bring in Connor Ingram, you're going to have to do the same thing. That's another contract you are going to potentially have to move. The other problem is if you claim a guy like this, they have to go to your NHL roster, right? This doesn't, if the Sharks wanted to put Ingram on the AHL, they would have to themselves put him on waivers to potentially get claimed. And that's where Edmonton comes in. Because from the sound of it, it does sound like Edmonton is or has or will have put in a waivers claim for Connor Ingram, a team that we know is very tight against the cap. We know that they want to try to add an infusion of talent or some competition at least for Stuart Skinner. And even if the Sharks claim him first, and then a week later they try to put him on waivers to get him down to the AHL, the Oilers are probably just going to claim him themselves, right? Because they feel like they can fit him in here. And, Ingram's contract is a very affordable contract. He's only getting paid at $1.95 million this season. Most teams can easily fit that into their into their payroll right now. And if you're the Oilers, you could, right? So for the Oilers, they do have, they are above the cap right now, and they would have to make a move or to get him under, but they can potentially move Calvin Pickard down to the AHL, and I don't think anyone's going to kind of mess with something like that. So, or they could look to move somebody else, to try to make a little bit of room there. But as smart or as great as an idea as it is, I think the Oilers make this really hard to do because, like I said, even if you claim Ingram, you still want to either try to get Nedeljkovic or Ingram down to the AHL, and the assumption would be Ingram would be the one to going down. Since he kind of missed a majority of last year, you'd probably want him to get some reps in the AHL before making a jump back up. And you kind of you sought out Nedeljkovic to come in and be a partner to Askarov. So, I like the idea. I just think it's potentially messy execution for the Sharks, because I think if they try to put him on Ingram on waivers, I think somebody else is going to snatch him up, and that somebody else would be in the Edmonton Oilers. The team I think would be the most likely to try to claim him, and then you're kind of stuck in the same position of we're still looking for a third goalie who can kind of be an AHL, NHL tweener type of player. So we'll see. We'll see what Mike Grier does. So we're going to talk about the practice lines today. Musty with Celebrini and Will Smith. Oh my. We're going to talk about Celebrini and Smith hanging out for 45 minutes after practice, and then we'll get you caught up and get you ready for the preseason game against Vegas. So we'll get to all that here in just 1 second. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5. If your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love using FanDuel because it fits however you like to play. You have player props, so maybe, Tua Tagovailoa interception against the Jets. He's been throwing his fair share of them. Or if you like building a same-game parlay, or even jumping into the live action as the game unfolds, they've got you covered there. It's quick, easy, and the best way to add a little bit more energy to your Sundays. So if you're ready to play, download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. All right, before we continue, do of course want to thank you for making Locked On Sharks your first listen. Again, proudly part of the Locked On Network. We cover your team every day. And if you haven't yet, like I said, perfect time to subscribe. We have preseason games coming up. The season's right around the corner. Of course, we'll be covering the Barracuda. We'll also be covering the best prospect pool in the entire NHL. So plenty of great stuff coming this season here at Locked On Sharks. Again, wherever you listen to this podcast, and of course, you can watch on YouTube as well. All right, so the kind of big news from today's practice was the revamped lines, right? And we're not going to make too much of Misa not up with the Toffoli Eklund group like that. That's fine, as we want to see. You're kind of swapping things around. You want to see how different guys play with different guys. Maybe you want to give Misa, maybe he got banged up. Who knows, right? Maybe you just want to see how things are going. But Musty, Celebrini-Smith playing together, which is a very intriguing thing because we know, of course, right, Celebrini-Smith is probably going to be a pair. What we talked about earlier this week about coaches putting pairs together, right, where you expect Celebrini and Smith, that's a pair. Like those two guys are most likely going to be together for majority of the season, right? And we talked about Eklund, Misa as a potential pair, especially if you want to give Misa a little bit more defensively responsible forward like William Eklund. But that third guy, right, that rotation guy, and it looks like Quentin Musty has earned an opportunity to play with Celebrini and Smith, and we'll see if this is a thing for Friday's game or not. But that I think that shows like the Sharks are giving Quentin Musty every bit of runway to try to make this team opening night. And what more could you ask for than getting to play with the best player on the team in Macklin Celebrini? and Will Smith, who we think is going to have a monster breakout season for the Sharks this year. Musty, like he easily put in the work this summer, has been a presence all throughout training camp. And yes, he's going to have his rookie mistakes. And I would be surprised if this is an opening night line, just because that's probably way too much fun for any NHL coach. And by what I mean for that is, other than Celebrini, there's some there's some defensive questions on there, and throwing your oldest guy being 20 years old on this team, on this line of Will Smith, like that's probably too much fun for Ryan Warsofsky. So we'll see, how that goes. But great opportunity for Quentin Musty to really have himself a nice game, especially if this is the group that we see Friday night. The really big opportunity for Musty. So the other players that were kind of that were stuck together here, and this is via Curtis Pashelka, Toffoli and B-Set Eklund, which I'm assuming B-Set's probably just the placeholder for Michael Miso right now. Maybe they wanted to get Miso playing with some other people. Maybe they wanted to give B-Set a chance to kind of play with this group. Kind of see how he does for a guy who's going to be at some point pushing for an NHL job and is expected to be the kind of first line center for the Barracuda this season. Like getting him playing with Toffoli and Eklund, not the worst opportunity for him. Grunstrom, Dellandrea, Lund. Good to see Lund back. I'm glad Orange. You glad to see Lund back and not wearing the non-contact jersey. So I'm assuming we'll probably see him in in the lineup here sooner rather than later. But I do think like this is probably going to be your group for the Friday night's game against Vegas. So the other kind of interesting thing, right, was Smith and Celebrini staying out on the ice about 45 minutes after practice. It warms the heart that the kids just get it, right? Like the kids just get it. They know they're the face of the franchise, especially Celebrini, right? And he's going to be the captain at some point, and we've had this discussion a million times. I'm not going to reopen the discussion right now, but at some point, Macklin Celebrini is going to be the captain of the San Jose Sharks, and if it's this year, next year, or in a couple years, whenever it's going to be, he's got to be the captain, right? And you hear about the days of it reminded me of the days of Joe Pavelski and Brent Burns, right? And Joe Pavelski, who very beloved captain, beloved player, beloved, like nobody has ever said a bad word about Joe Pavelski outside of Vegas. And like them spending all that time, right? Joe Pavelski becoming one of the greatest tippers in the NHL. Didn't come by accident. It came because he stood there and took a lot of shot attempts from Brent Burns, because Brent Burns is that crazy person who wants to go out there, and even though like they've practiced for an hour or whatever, he wants to go out there and continue to shoot a bajillion shots so that way Joe Pavelski could tip him, right? And there's a reason why Brent Burns is 40 years old. Brent Burns is 6 weeks older than me, and he's about ready to play another season in the NHL. And like, there's a reason that like he has not missed a game in a decade plus, right? Because he's a freaking maniac. It reminds you of those days of like, just these kids get it. The franchise is in good hands. And like going out there, working on their craft, right? And working on one-timers on the power play and working on that chemistry, especially between those two guys of, right, what happens when you do this and I do this, and these little like signals and hand, like just these little kind of nods or flashes or like whatever it is that working on almost like telepathic, the way that they communicate between each other, just that way they can kind of set each other up for that perfect play. And I'm sure, like we've talked about, if Celebrini is going to, take a big step, like the power play has to take a big step. And this is the work that they're doing to make sure the power play takes a big step. Is these little things here. So great to see. great to see from these young guys. The Celebrini 90 points. Just put it down, guys. It's Macklin Celebrini 90 points. That's captain stuff right here, man. I don't know what else to add. Yes, I know he's 19, but Macklin Celebrini is going to be the captain at some point. Just do it. Anyway, we're going to get you guys ready for the game against Vegas. So kind of discuss what to watch for as the Sharks are going to be playing Friday night, game 2 of the preseason against Vegas. So we'll get to that here in just 1 second. I've been meaning to tell you about my new favorite jeanswear brand, Doer. I've been living in the performance denim straight jeans, and honestly, they've completely changed the game for me. I love my Doer jeans because, one, they look great, right? It's important that when you wear a pair of pants or jeans, they look good on you. Nobody wants to look like garbage. But 2, and even more important, they feel great. They have 5 times the stretch of traditional denim. They feel stretchy without looking stretchy. They combine classic jeanswear style with the kind of comfort and performance you get from athletic wear. It's the best of both worlds. There's a reason why they call them the world's most comfortable pants. Don't take my word for it. Go try a pair on for yourself. Doer just opened a store right here in Hayes Valley, so you can feel the difference firsthand. Go check them out on 567 Hayes Street. Mention our promo code LOCKEDONSF in store to get 15% off your first order, or check them out online at shopdoer.com/LockedOnSF for 15% off. That's shopdoer.com/LockedOnSF. All right, guys, before we continue, of course, I want to thank you for making Locked On Sharks your first listen. For your second listen, go check out the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast. Steal and Flip provide daily fantasy tips to give you the edge over your league mates, all while making you a smarter hockey fan. Find Locked On Fantasy Hockey on YouTube, wherever you listen to podcasts. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. All right, so we don't have who's going to play, but that doesn't mean there's still not important things to watch, right? And again, the assumption here is that Dickinson, Misa, Musty, I assume all those guys are going to play because, right, the Sharks are trying to see what they have, give these guys an opportunity to make the roster, all that fun stuff, right? I want to and hopefully Vegas brings more than their Henderson squad, and you start to see a couple of NHL players, bona fide NHL players in there. So I want to see how we'll start with Dickinson, right? I want to see how he continues to build because great. We talked about on Sunday night, great game from Sam Dickinson. You saw though, right, some of the internal processing, and that's always been the case with Sam Dickinson, right? Is how do you get used to the speed of the NHL? For him, unfortunately, it's just he has to play more NHL games, and here's an opportunity, granted it's preseason, to play in another NHL game. So how does he continue to react, and how does he cut down on those instances where he just processes too slow or doesn't put himself in a position to process slowly? So I assume Dickinson's going to play, especially because the Sharks have had plenty of time since their last game and they want Dickinson to try to make the roster. I assume Dickinson's going to play. So he's kind of he's the guy I'm watching the most because we're trying to get Dickinson on the roster. So Misa, Musty, I mean, we talked about Musty a ton here earlier, but those two guys, if given the opportunity, how do they look with it? I'm also intrigued with goalies, right? We saw Nedeljkovic get the full game on Friday. I'm assuming we're going to see some Askarov on Sunday. We saw Nedeljkovic play the full game. I assume we're going to get some Askarov here on Friday. So how does Askarov look, right? Hopefully he comes out and looks sharp. As you know, again, we're not going to overreact if he comes out and he gives up 3 goals on 10 shots or something like that. And we're not going to overreact. It's preseason. But you would like to, for the guy who's going to, they're trying to hand the keys of the card to Askarov here. You like him to come out and look sharp, especially, it sounds like he's had a very good training camp so far. It would be nice to kind of see that translate here to some of these preseason games. So does Askarov get the full game? Does he get half a game? Does he get 2 periods? What is how do the Sharks kind of work Askarov into it? And then who's the guy? Is it Skarek? Do we see Gabe Carrier? Do we see Matt Davis? Matt Davis, who struggled in his, not all his fault, but the rookie tournament, right? Matt Davis struggled and was kind of hung out to dry a lot. Does he get a chance to kind of come in and maybe shake off a bad performance there? So I am very curious to see who's in net there. So, and then defensively, again, I assume Dickinson's going to play. We know John Klingberg is not going to play. Do we see Orlov and Shakir Mukhamadullin, who's probably going to be your top pairing defenseman this season? ? Do we see these guys play, and how do they look? Right, we saw Nick Leddy last time. With Klingberg. We know Ferraro Liljegren, we kind of know what that is. But Mukhamadullin and Orlov, we want to see the Russian duo back there and how these guys, kind of start to continue to build that chemistry and get some on ice. So I'm assuming that those guys are going to get an opportunity here. And then if Macklin Celebrini plays, that's a big thing too. So, it's the same thing with the streaming rate. It's going to be the Sharks will be streaming it. It is geo-locked and again, that is not the San Jose Sharks decision. That is an NHL decision when it comes to blackouts. So don't tweet or yell at the Sharks admin. It's not them. You yell at the NHL's thing. So it's not the Sharks. It's the NHL's decision on who gets to watch preseason games and who does not. So, we will see. We'll see if I can do a reaction show. My son has a soccer tournament in Sacramento this weekend, so we are traveling to Sacramento. My plan is to try to watch the game. We'll see if we get a reaction show Friday night. If not, we'll figure something out. So, but yes, I'm for a lot of these young guys. This is a good opportunity, right? We had the first preseason game. Now it's that kind of next little step with a second preseason game. How do things start to kind of amplify? Things start to kind of take a little jump here. How do you react, and how do you kind of take that next step here? So, right, it's easy to look good in one game. Can you do it twice? So, but that's going to be it for me today. We'll be back later. So make sure you follow along wherever you get podcasts. And of course, you can watch on YouTube as well. Follow the show on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and on TikTok at Locked On Sharks. Follow me on Twitter and Blue Sky at My Fry Hole. Until sometime soon. Bye, friends.